It's that on average, over my entire life, if I didn't have my service dog, I would not be able to live my life to the fullest. But I don't think that that's concrete enough to help any of you guys in your decision about whether or not you need a service dog. So today we're gonna get concrete. Hey, what's up guys? It's Jen. Let's move you over and get this party rock going. When I was in college was the rise of LMFAO, the band, and I had this rock in my college dorm room, so we called it Party Rock. On my channel, I know that I talk a lot about my service dog, Buddy, and how much of a difference he makes in my life, for my independence, for my safety, and for my peace of mind. Being able to live some sort of a normal life. But what I don't tell you guys a lot about is the decision that I had to go through to decide whether or not I actually needed a service dog. It's not a black and white decision to get a service dog. And even once you have a service dog, you don't just automatically take the dog to everything that you go to. There are a lot of choices. There are a lot of little gray areas. Whenever a subscriber approaches me about whether or not I think they should get a service dog, by the way, there's no reason you should be asking me. I have no idea. You need to talk to your doctor. Anytime a subscriber asks me whether or not I think they should get a service dog, I make sure to warn them about the downsides of getting a service dog. Click this card to learn the truth. The truth about having a service dog is it's a lot more inconvenient than it is convenient, in my eyes. If I didn't have my disabilities, I absolutely would not want Buddy to be at the store with me. Sure, it's fun to have Buddy and I miss him when I'm gone, but he's a lot to take care of, just like a toddler. And when you're already disabled and you're already out in public, or you're already having trouble just taking care of yourself, making the decision to also commit to a service dog is a really big decision. So again, go back and click that card if you haven't seen that video. I also didn't realize that the choice about whether or not to get a service dog depends a lot on my own perception of whether or not I'm disabled enough to have a service dog. Especially with the stigma around migraine, it was really hard to come out of the closet, so to speak, about having a migraine service dog. Now I feel confident in my decision to have a service dog. I know that Buddy increases my safety, he increases my independence, and he increases my comfort or my peace of mind. But I don't think that that's concrete enough to help any of you guys in your decision about whether or not you need a service dog. So today we're gonna get concrete. Today I'm gonna tell you 5 specific scenarios where having my service dog was actually make or break. These are the actual things that push Buddy over the edge from a convenience to a necessity. The needle movers, the straw that broke the camel's back, but in a good way. This is the 5 times that my service dog undeniably becomes a need if I don't want to be dependent on other people. Scenario number 1, let's start with last week's video, going on a hike. We did our really big Utah road trip at the end of 2019, and I've said it a million freaking times on my channel. I'm sorry if you're sick of hearing it, but I couldn't have done that trip without my service dog. I couldn't. My migraines are complex, so I'll lose feeling in my arms and legs or forget where I am, and the last thing that would be safe for me is to be stranded in the wilderness on a hike. And if I'm in the wilderness, even if there are other people around, if I'm expected to walk back, I should not be out there without my dog. I mean, people can commit to carrying me if they want. If they want to say, Jen, just in case, yes, I will commit to carrying you home. But the much easier thing to do is say, yeah, let's go. Let's go 8 miles out, it's fine, and Buddy will let us know when we're gonna turn around. And as a disabled woman who's already had so much independence taken away from me, it is really empowering to have a tool that allows me to tell my friends that I feel confident on my own now. I appreciate and accept their help, but it's really good for my self-esteem to not always be dependent on it. So let's move on to number 2. Chores. Groceries. I talk about groceries a lot because they were really stressful for me when I didn't have a service dog. But now I have Buddy, so now I can do the grocery shopping for my family. The grocery store is a really great place for a migrainer, and I don't actually mean that because it's a horrible place for a migrainer. It's actually a very triggering place for a migrainer. But it's a great place for this migrainer. The grocery store is a place where I can go and pick up a few items and then come home and make an excellent meal for my family, and it isn't a huge time commitment. If I have an hour where I feel like I can do well and I've got Buddy with me, I can really make a difference in my family's day. Or week, if I decide to bulk cook. But without Buddy, I'm stuck at home. And if I want to do something nice for the family, I have to ask my husband if he's willing to go pick up the stuff for me. Or order it delivered, obviously, but if my husband is the one who's taking over the groceries, that's fine. That's actually what's been going on for the past 6 months when I was too pregnant to go, or when I was recovering from the childbirth. oh gosh, click this card for the childbirth. But since I do have Buddy, I can choose to be the one who goes. And I know I used groceries as the example, but what about like when I need a new pair of jeans? I'm an adult. I want to go to the store and pick out my jeans. I don't want to need to have a designated driver. Which brings me to point number 3. If I do not have my service dog with me, I do not count on myself to drive home. That's my personal rule because I never want to get stranded. If I ever drive to a place and I don't have another adult in the car who can drive me home, then I have some other arrangement set up to assume that I'm just like, boom, drunk. That's a great way to put it. If I leave by myself, I assume that I'm gonna get super drunk. Because that's sort of what migraines are like. You just suddenly are not with it. You suddenly can't drive. So if I don't have Buddy, then I always have another adult there who can drive me home if I get sick in the middle of the outing. However, if I do have Buddy, then I know exactly when I need to go home in order to not end up stranded at wherever I am. Buddy gives me a very convenient 20-30 minutes notice, and I'm very rarely more than 10 or 15 minutes out of my way. I also get 2 alerts. So I get alerted many hours before that 20-minute alert that a 20-minute alert will be coming later. And now I can go hang out with my friends again. I think this one's a good one to make an example out of because it's a good gray area for whether or not I actually need the service dog. Buddy's migraine alerts are before my aura and after my aura. But in the middle, I get an aura. Before I had Buddy, I actually didn't recognize my aura because it tends to be a more auditory aura. It's not always your classic visual aura, so I didn't always notice it. But now that I've been working with Buddy for a long time, I do recognize my aura. So I do feel comfortable being out by myself if I haven't gotten an aura yet. Most of the time that's okay. But I do still need to have my safeguards in place because I can't count on it. I can't count on it like I can count on Buddy. So do I really need a service dog in this case? Yes, no, maybe, but the convenience of not needing to always have people taking care of me or always having people on call, I mean, that's a huge convenience that I now have. But I also need to be taking care of Buddy all the time. So that's a huge inconvenience that I have. Tough choice, guys. Let's talk about number 4. Being alone. Being home alone. Before my service dog, I was so scared to be alone for more than an hour that I would always have my neighbor on call and make sure they were home. When my husband went on a weekend trip with his friends, I had a friend stay the weekend with me to take care of me. That is the most emasculating thing to go through as an adult who functions so normally for so much of the time. So much of the time back then. Back then, I was chronic migraine, but it wasn't every single day. I had a bomb diggity weekend with my friend. That was actually like the best. If I had to repeat it, I would definitely want to repeat it the way that it happened. But I don't want to have an adult over with me just because I'm home alone. And now that I have my service dog, I don't feel like that's the case. Buddy makes me feel safe when I'm alone. Oh, and by the way, all this is also pre-baby. This is another example where it's a little bit of a peace of mind thing. I notice I'm about to faint with almost enough warning to always get to my bed if I'm home. Does that make sense? If I'm not distracted, I can give myself about a 2-minute warning for a faint, but my service dog gives me like a 10-minute warning before a faint. So if I'm going to spend the day alone and I want to be able to do things that have more than a 2-minute window, then I'm going to be a lot more comfortable having my service dog at home. For example, taking a shower. I personally think that all adults shouldn't shower alone just because of the slipping risk. It's like the most slippery thing that you can do in your life, and it's a silly thing to hit your head in something like that. But as an adult, most adults are able to just make that choice, and I don't really get to safely make that choice, except for now that I have this really incredible dog. We were also recently blessed with a daughter, and while I do believe that we would have eventually made the decision to have children, even if I stayed this sick, Buddy is actually what made me comfortable enough to say, yes, I feel ready to go ahead and start trying for our family now. I've been around babies my whole life, so the amount of care that a baby takes was no surprise to me. But I haven't spent a lot of time around babies as someone with a chronic illness or with any kind of chronic pain, with migraines, with a fainting disorder. If you're new here, that sounds way more severe than it is. Don't freak out, the baby is safe. I know my body and I know the warning signs, so not once has any of this ever snuck up on me. I've never just fainted. So I know we would have been able to make this parenting thing work. But I would be lying if I said that Buddy didn't have a lot to do with that. When we decided to try for a baby, a lot of that was because I was still able to go to the grocery store and contribute in that way. A lot of it was those tough decisions about How can you take care of the baby without ever picking her up? Is that something that I'm ever actually going to need? And is Buddy able to mitigate all of that for me? And thankfully I already had him, so the answer ended up being yes. This extra little layer of peace of mind over the top of my life in that aspect is just amazing. It's not that I'm royally without my service dog. It's that my service dog is able to mitigate some aspects of my disability, and that increases my freedom. It's not that I need him to survive. But when I say that my service dog is my lifeline, I want you guys to know that that's more of a cumulative effect. It's not that in every single little tiny thing that happens in my life, I need to have my service dog there or else I'm going to be in big trouble. It isn't. It's that on average, over my entire life, if I didn't have my service dog, I would not be able to live my life to the fullest. Right now, am I living my life to my fullest? I don't know. I think even right now, I could live a full and happy life even without my service dog. But I think I would probably do only about 40% of the things, and I would only have about 20% of the confidence. And that's not self-confidence, though self-confidence is affected too. I mean confidence in being able to go do the activity without something detrimental happening. Without some weird, crazy medical event where Jen ends up on the floor again. Jen doesn't like ending up on the floor in front of people. Except the 600,000 and counting of you who watched me faint. You guys can watch me be on the floor. I really appreciate your support on my channel. I'm really thankful that with my disabilities, I am able to function to a decent degree even without my service dog. That's one of the things that made it so hard to decide that I am sick enough to have a service dog. And I hope that you guys seeing these 5 examples of tangible ways that Buddy improves my life help some of you who are going through some of the same questions in your head right now. Last but not least, having these videos a week apart is kind of sad. It doesn't feel like this is often enough. I honestly really miss doing the Q&A this week, and I'm disappointed. I am. Frankly, I'm disappointed that we're down to once a week. I wish I could handle more. But what this is doing is it's opening up my schedule so that I can introduce more stuff. So, first things first, head over to Instagram if you want to have a say in the things that are coming up on the channel. Second, there's something really exciting, a charity thing that's coming up, but I'm not going to tell you anything else more than that. And third, Patreon. I think a lot of you guys are noticing my struggle and that I'm having a really hard time keeping up with all of this, but you also know that I need to keep up with all of this so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't start to hate me, because in order to buy food, I need money, and in order to have money, I need views. But it's a lot to keep up with, and AdSense revenue isn't crazy revenue. So a couple of you guys have suggested a Patreon. I haven't looked into it yet. I'm considering it. If you know anything about how that works, or if you want to let me know what you want to see on Patreon, please comment those things below or hit me up on Instagram. Instagram stories is also how you can put in your video suggestions when I put the little question box up. Shh. Sorry for the phone vibration. Okay, see you next week. Oh my gosh, shh, my phone's blowing up. Shh. Stop vibrating. See you next week. Is that what she said?